Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2025 Chess World Cup. This is a brutal one-month-long tournament, knockout tournament, where the top three finishers qualify to the next candidates. This tournament is so dramatic. We are only finishing the round of 32. We are not even in the quarterfinals yet. There are 16 people remaining at the end of this recap. Almost all of the top players have been eliminated. Almost all of them. Today, we will send several people home who some of you really, really wanted in the candidates tournament, and we will continue the incredible underdog story of many others. So, without further ado, here we go. This is going to be a really long recap. This is officially the longest recap I have ever had. I'm going to show you something like 25 games of chess in one recap. I will go faster toward the end, but in the beginning, we will focus on the games that ended in classical chess. Keep in mind, the World Cup is one game. The next day, they play a second classical game. If there is no winner of those two games, then they play a third day of tie breaks, and the tie breaks could go 10 games long, right? So first, we're going to kick things off in classical chess in the matchup between Aronian and Radoslav Wojtaszek. Very, very strong Polish grandmaster. He has been over 2,700. Why this game is hilarious is because Levon literally invents a new opening. I have never, ever, ever seen this opening before. This is the Vienna, and I have a course on the Vienna. It's on Chessly. It is the most popular course I've ever made. It's also one of the best chess openings under the rating of 2,000, which over 98% of you are, if not more. Levon plays a3. I have never in my life seen the move a3. Don't understand it whatsoever. The only explanation is the bishop cannot go to b4. And after d5, pawn takes, knight takes, Levon plays queen h5. All right, now we're in business. I mean, this is some gnarly stuff. Wojtaszek just plays pretty normally. Levon goes bishop b5. He targets the pawn in the center with the queen. Bishop e7 is actually a very reasonable move, sacrificing this pawn, because after knight takes c3, black is going to end up with a lot of momentum against the queen in the center. Levon goes takes, queen c3, and we have castles. So basically, Wojtaszek is like, look, I have the bishop pair, your king is in the middle, so I have compensation. He's right. The problem is, it's actually kind of difficult in chess when you give away a pawn so early. Players are used to playing much more stable positions, and, Wojtaszek does a good job for quite some time, but now he needs to part with another pawn. And Levon is offering him to take here to then potentially start an attack. Like, the best move here for black is bishop f6 to try to give up this pawn, get this pawn. Wojtaszek goes wrong. He plays rook e8, allows Levon to castle queenside. Now the pawn is protected, and Levon is just an absolute monster at these dynamic positions. He brings both knights to the middle, offers up the g-pawn, and now goes here, where he's just up a clean pawn for the remainder of the game. I mean, this opening experiment worked out perfectly. Levon is extremely good at complicated and unbalanced positions, so he is going to be in cruise control. He just has to convert this endgame. He has a pawn advantage, but more than anything else, he has a 4-on-2 advantage. It's not just about a pawn. Like, he's down a pawn over here, but black is not in time to actually generate anything. So really, it's just Levon playing a 4-on-2. And a 4-on-2 is absolutely fatal. You are not going to get past it. Bishop a7, c5. And it takes Levon a little bit of time, 37 moves to be exact, but he simply wins the game because the pawn's going to a5, and then he's going to take, and then he's going to move, and he's going to queen. Ladies and gentlemen, pawn to a3 needs to now be added to every Vienna course because that's ridiculous. I mean, what are we even doing here? Chess is so crazy in 2025. I mean, this is the state of chess, right? Oh, he moved upon one square. Oh, and the crowd goes wild. Other sports, they like fight in the middle of the hockey rink, or, they play a legendary 7-game World Series, or stuff in cricket that I don't know about or understand, or UFC or NFL or some of these sports. Pawn to a3, crazy. Crowd erupts, and Levon wins. He wins a very impressive game, and he moves on to the round of 16. I got a lot more games for you. So, we have Alexei Sarana, Russian grandmaster representing Serbia now, and Jose Martinez, a.k.a. Jospum, a.k.a. Well, the story of Jospim is really a wild one. I mean, he's one of the best online players over the last few years. He was famously accused of cheating. I was one of the commentators in the match that was organized in Spain, the Clash of Claims. And yeah, how far he's come. I mean, he beat Nojibek Abdusatorov 2-0. And in his first game against Alexei Sarana, who's an extremely experienced grandmaster, we had a triangle system. White played e4 the most aggressive way, and black goes check. White gambits a pawn in the center of the board. The specifics here are not so important. I used to play knight e2 here, and I would rely on different things. On this diagonal here, there's a very funny move, bishop to f8. It's always a very funny concept. If the king takes, queen d8 is literally checkmate. So bishop f8 is a funny move that's played to attack the pawn on g7, but it's not the best move. The best move is this. And then, you know, Jose in this game, he played everything. He played all his prep. Alexei knew it as well. You could see white is not spending a lot of time. And then here, I believe Alexei actually started thinking knight e4 was still fine. But here, white needed to play the 17th move, queen a4. That is the best, and not only the best, it is the only move in the position. Because if you actually count the pawns, black is up a pawn. Remember, black took a pawn in the beginning of the opening, right here. White gave up a pawn to have a long-term initiative with two bishops, active pieces. Black's pawn structure is a little silly. But if you go knight here and trade pieces, what will happen is you will no longer have a target. There is no easy target in the position because black is going to go e4. And that's exactly what he's going to do in a moment. Knight c5. Alexei picks the pawn back up and is like, well, at least I equalized in terms of the pawns. But Jose takes the center file. And then he brings his knight. And then he goes king g7. And in a few moves, he just has a completely awesome position. He dominates the only open file. His knights are very strong. Bishops don't do particularly well in such close settings. And he just plays very confident chess, gets the knight into his opponent's position, and uses his pawns. Both of them, may I add. Rook d3, excellent chess. Knight e5, knight f3. Look at this. This is a nightmare. I'm here all week. Bishop takes, you get this, but guess what? I come right back, and I am threatening to win your bishop and then win all your other pieces. This is still hanging. Ladies and gentlemen, my guy, Jose Martinez. Jose Eduardo Martinez Alcantara, if I may, has just won 3 straight games at the World Cup, and in the next round, he was actually, in the next game, he was winning as well, but he drew. He knocks out Alexei Sarana. Jose Martinez is in the final 16 of the World Cup. He might be a freaking candidate. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Next game I have for you. I'm going to, like I said, I'm trying to respect everyone, even if some of these players you may not know. Here we have Kartik Venkataraman, 2580 FIDE rated Indian Grandmaster. Like I said, they print them like it's money for the Federal Reserve, versus Liam Le, who's one of the strongest players in the world for many years. From Vietnam, this was a Nimso Indian. Liam is so good at technical positions, technical, straightforward games, pieces going to the right squares, and if you mess around against Liam, it will come back to bite. Here, Kartik was playing very normal chess. Liam offered a queenless middle game. Kartik rejected the offer, but that very quickly gave black the opportunities to play against an isolated pawn. Right? Isolated pawn, no pawn neighbors. Struggling to push the pawn through, and Liam just totally took over. Kartik tried to trade off his pawn, but that allowed Liam's knight into the game. It wasn't the flashiest game. Kartik tried to make things complicated, sacrificed a piece to try to get some attack going with maybe like, you know, rook d4, rook g4 ideas, queen f6, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, Liam just did not accept the sacrifice, defended very nicely. He's going to win the pawn now. Kartik had to tie all his pieces together, and the pawn's just promoting. And Liam out-navigating his less experienced opponent, who he outrates by quite a bit, gets it into an endgame. Liam doesn't win flashy games, but he wins them extremely effectively. Like, very convincingly, just plays very well, almost never allows any counterplay. Clean game. This isn't coming. This isn't coming. You're going to trade one of these pieces. You're simply going to win. Liam into the round of 16. Liam, former World Blitz champ, if I'm not mistaken. He won it one of the years, or maybe he was co-champ. But he also wins. And now perhaps the most fun matchup of this entire round, it's the Germans. It's Bluebaum versus Donchenko. Donchenko just knocked out Anish Giri, so he knocked out one candidate. Now he has to play another one. He's playing the top 2 finishers of the Grand Swiss. He plays in English. It's a Queen's Gambit declined. Again, not the flashiest, not the sexiest opening. We have just a pure mirror position where White has a little bit more development than his opponent. Knight A4, and Donchenko just plays very inspired. I mean, you got to respect how Bluebaum played this. Look at this. He went Knight D7, Knight B8, and then Knight C6 a little bit later. This is very high-level stuff, but he spent a lot of time doing this, and then he needed to catch up on time. He grabbed the pawn in the middle, and Donchenko just took over. The board opened up for him. The bishops are alive. This bishop is coming. The knight is incoming. Rook is coming. This rook is, I mean, scary-looking position, and Bluebaum 4 minutes to make 12 moves. Just not going to happen. Very good sustained pressure from Donchenko, who ends up converting the position into an endgame where he just has an outside pass pawn. In case you've been missing these recaps, like the outside pass pawns in these middle and endgames have proven so nice, and Donchenko just smooth sailing, hydraulic pressing the opponent, and he also makes it through. He makes it through into the next round by virtue of classical chess, a 2-game knockout. He gets to rest. And, you know, maybe we'll have 2 Germans in the candidates. Vincent Keymer as well, of course. Okay, speaking of Vincent Keymer, I will be showing you his game next. It is Esipenko, it is Vincent Keymer. They went to the tie breaks. I think I have one more game in classical chess that I will show you, which is the Yakubboev game against Pranav. This one was decided in 2 games. But Vincent Keymer, Andrei Esipenko, Keymer, my early favorite in the tournament to win this World Cup. I mean, Esipenko playing, I have absolutely no idea what. I have never seen this in my life, and if we go to the opening database, it has basically never been played. So that's wonderful. But at least it's not pawn to a3. Vincent, very principled, 2 pawns in the center. Black is better, but the position is a position, you know? Like, you still have to play. Bishop b3. Keep in mind, they're both playing 10-minute chess, and Esipenko makes a couple of preparatory moves, just on the queen side, and then he starts an attack, right? So g4 is to control this side of the board, but it's also to attack. Like, he's controlling the pawn movement, but he's also trying to go knight f6, h4, h5, g6, or h6. You know, the other knight can get here. The rooks are going to come in. Not an easy position, and it demands immediate counterattack from Vincent. He doesn't just want to get smushed. We have, you know, both guys repositioning their pieces. Rook h4, knight d2, knight takes d2, queen d2. Vincent kind of struggling to find the moment to break through. It's kind of feeling like Esipenko has the initiative. He grabs himself a pawn as Vincent steps away. And I think, you know, I really don't know why d4 was not played here, for the record, just defending, you know, instead he went for this. Now we go to an endgame. The attack is kind of extinguished, but we will have a time scramble. I mean, your qualification to the candidates will simply be determined by how fast you can play with a minute on your clock. e4, rook c4, rook e1, rook c6, rook e2, g6, hg, rook h3, rook b6, king e7. It's so complicated. Both guys under 30 seconds. Well, actually, now they're under 30 seconds. And in a move or two, in a relatively equal and innocuous rook endgame, you needed to put your king here. That's what you had to do. And I think here Vincent just sort of panicked because he saw rook f6 check incoming. He went here, and this move is just losing. He played this move with 1 second on the clock. That's why he gained all that time back. But this is just a losing endgame. The king needed to actually be on the f7 square. It was hard to understand that. Esipenko walks in, and Esipenko, I think here, blundered a draw. f2 was the wrong move. Vincent needed to play rook f7 first. Instead, he does it like this, and White wins because the rook is deflected, and you simply go and eat all the other pawns. This is over. You will not save this position. And Andrei Esipenko knocks out Vincent Keymer from the World Cup, and Vincent Keymer will not be a candidate. It is not looking likely at all. I really thought he was going to win this tournament, or at least finish in the top 3, if not win it. And Vincent Keymer will not win the circuit. It's looking like he will not make it to the candidates tournament, which is wild, which is really, really wild. But Esipenko moves on. And I mean, I was rooting for Vincent, not against Esipenko specifically, but I wanted Vincent to win. He was a game away, and then he blundered against Bluebaum in the Grand Swiss. Bluebaum, not Bluebaum, Bluebaum. More games. It is not over. Not at all. Okay, so we have Prague, we have Dubov. Now, Dubov in this match you know, against everybody, actually. His strategy has been, don't focus on the classical, take them to rapid and blitz, and beat them. And it has worked. And really, if there was one guy you would not do this against, it is Pragg. Because, I mean, he will beat you in any format. I mean, he's an excellent player. So this was their rapid tiebreak, 15 minutes per player. He gave him the bishop. You know, he tried to make a little bit of progress on the side of the board, and it was equal for a while. But at some point, Pragg took a wrong path. He kind of coordinated his pieces in a weird way. Here came bishop a5, rook d8, and suddenly, like, white can't move any piece. He can't move his rook, he can't move his knight, he can't move his bishop. So he tries to shuffle king h8, knight e2, and d5. And Dubov's piece coordination is simply far superior. This rook is trapped basically in the center of the board. You have to now swing it over. But in swinging it over, Dubov gets all of the forward momentum. Queen f5, e3, bishop takes d5, walking the pawn all the way to the f2 square. Now you are setting up unstoppable threats against these pieces. Pragg defending himself. In comes knight d3, which is a pure sacrifice. You cannot take this bishop because queen e2, which attacks everything, but you have no choice. You have to go here, and Daniil Dubov ends up in exchange, up a pawn, up a totally winning position. He just has to not panic. He won't, and yeah, Pragg made this move, I guess, and lost on time is what happened, but he had no other moves. I mean, rook e1 was coming, rook g5 was coming if he wanted it. You have all sorts of threats on this diagonal. You just have to, you know, time it right. And Daniil Dubov knocks out Pragg. So Pragg has been eliminated, and so has Vincent Keymer, which leaves the top seed, Arjun Erigaisi, as the lone wolf. He's the only one left, and he's playing Peter Leko in a couple of games. What's funny is that Daniil then gave an interview after this, and he said, in typical Dubov fashion, he said he spent less than 10 minutes preparing against Pragg. He didn't do it on his computer. It was in classical. He didn't do it on his computer. He only did it on his phone. And he said that Pragg, who basically only studies chess and opening specifically, posed him zero problems in the opening. And, you know, I gotta tell you, like, yeah, Daniil will probably have some angry threads written about him on the internet after that. But, I mean, I love the trash talk. I wish chess players in generally were more outspoken, but I do, you know, I do respect the cultural differences from where all chess players are from all over the world. If Pragg had beaten Dubov, he would have never said such a thing. So yeah, Dubov just like winning, you know, talking his usual stuff, and yeah, crazy stuff, crazy. He beats Pragg, wild. Next, Yakubboev versus Pranav. Pranav Pranav. I think his full name is Pranav Venkatesh. I hope I'm not mixing him up with another grandmaster from India. But Pranav is the young guy. He beat Tari earlier in this tournament. Yakubboev has been the number 3 in Uzbekistan for a while, behind Sindarov and, of course, Abdusattorov. Plus, his name is Nodirbek. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. This was their classical game. It was a Scotch. E5, main line. This is called the Miesis variation. Miesis. I mean, this is just some really weird stuff. F6, G3, like giving up a pawn in the center of the board, but developing some pieces. You know, black is trying to get the bishop out, and Nodirbek counters that. Rook b1, bishop b2. Black is just straight up a pawn, but somehow the position is equal. I don't understand. C5, knight b3 targeting the pawn. Takes. Sorry, it takes knight c5 first. Now we take back. And I don't understand chess. I don't get how you could just give up a pawn to your opponent and you're like never trying to win it back. I mean, you're basically just saying like, black's position is worse than mine. Like, I'm targeting this pawn. I can target this pawn whenever I want. I have the d file whenever I want. It's just absurd to me. But actually, it's a shockingly hard position to play with black. Like, it looks much, much more dangerous than on the surface. And after a little while, like, finally Pranav just makes a mistake. Instead of going back to b8, he goes here. Yakubboev immediately swoops in, takes the pawn on e5, for the pawn on c4, and then wins the pawn on c7, and he's just much better now. I mean, this is mind-blowing stuff. Like, I don't understand chess even at a fraction of the level as these players. Yakubboev, in the long run, won all the pawns. So black's position originally looked like this. Even like this, when he had all these pawns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some 20 moves later, Every single pawn is gone. Everything is gone. Pranav is trying to create some counterplay. It's just not fast enough. Queen d7, I'm threatening mate first. Game over. Rook a8, threatening queen takes g7 mate, and you cannot stop it because of the pin on the rook and the king. This was probably the best game Yakubboev has ever played. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. This was brilliant stuff. I don't get this at all. I don't get this opening in the slightest. So knight d2 is a move. f6 is not a move I've ever seen before. And then to play g3, bishop g2, and just to play down a pawn for the whole game. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Absolutely deserved. And now we will go back to the playoffs because, folks, this stuff was epic. I mean, really, like, these tie breaks today were incredible. So this is Sindarov versus Yu Yangyi. This is another Uzbek star. Not super important, the opening. It was a very long and boring Petrov. It was extremely equal for an extremely long time. Both players made queens. And this is the start of the fun. And this thing went on some 60 moves. So basically, the hardest endgame in chess, the hardest endgame period is the queen endgame. Most endgames have theoretical knowledge. Like if a piece is on a square and you're on this square, it's a draw or it's a win. Queen endgames are so mysterious, so hard to play. And obviously, White is trying to make a second queen. White is going to shield themselves from checks. The only way that Black draws this game is to keep checking White. That's it. There is no other way. And that is what Yu Yangyi is now going to do for the next 60 moves. I'm going to keep clicking the forward button. The way White wants to win is to make a queen, get out of checks, or trade the queen. Of course, if you trade queens and this king is very far away, you will just queen. So that is the plan. It's going to be a lot of checks. At some point, White is going to get a winning position because of the construction of the pieces. So it's coming. It's equal, it's equal, it's equal. But you see White is making progress. It doesn't look like it's equal. But it's equal, it's equal, it's equal, it's equal, it's equal, it's equal. And on the 99th move, it is no longer equal, apparently. Queen f2 was the wrong move. You needed to play the only move in the position, king to a2. For some reason, I can't explain it to you. I'm not going to pretend to be smart enough to explain it to you. If anybody under the rating of 2,700 FIDE confidently explains to you why king a2 is better than any other move, they use Stockfish. I don't know. Like, nobody knows. Really. I mean, I'm serious. Like, I'm really oversimplifying it, but basically the king has to be here because it's going to be out of the way of some checks geometrically. Like, somewhere you will not be checked, and I will be able to check you and not be counter-checked and force a queen trade. Nobody understands. Anyway, you know how I know nobody understands? Because for the next, like, 7 moves, it was winning for White. And then on the 100 and like 15th move, I think, somewhere here. Yes, and I mean, he made a huge mistake. Now queen g4 is a draw. It was not played. Now queen a7 is a draw because of king b2. This is all, now it's winning again after you move the king. He gave him another check, and then he went here, and this is a draw. And then this is completely winning again because of some reason. And then king g6, and the game is over. So I think Yu Yangyi might have lost on time here, but this is game over because there are no more checks. You have to go queen c4. And then I would play probably this and then some sort of queen f5 configuration. I don't know. Like, I actually don't know. Maybe this is just a win, king h6. I think this is just a win because now you're going to make the queen. Like, queen here. No, I don't know. I straight up think Yu Yangyi lost on time on the 125th move. So that's cool. That's great. Javakir Sindarov makes it after 125 moves. Nobody understands queen endgames. Nobody's going to pretend to understand queen endgames. So now let's look at some games that are not queen endgames. Hare Krishna versus Niels Grandelius. This was a rapid game. Hare Krishna has had a very good tournament. He's won 2 of the best games of the tournament. He won a beautiful game against Daniel Darda from Belgium. And then he won a beautiful game against... I'm blanking. The game where he sacrificed the queen. Nesterov? Nesterov. Russian Grandmaster, I think. Yeah, I think it was Nesterov. Anyway. Not important. Don't worry. Italian. A4, stopping Black from advancing. Black plays this setup. all good. Grandelius, b5. From the opening, Grandelius had a great position. Hare Krishna, you know, solid player. He's going to make it. He's not going to always sack his queen on the 9th move. Shocking. But then here, Niels made a mistake. So, first of all, he did not need to trade these bishops. He could have played something else. He could have maybe attacked the center. He did this, which killed the momentum of his position a little bit because now he can't play d5. Then here, you know, White had the option to put some more pressure. Like, probably at this point, you should take on d4 first and then take on b5. This gives White certain advantages, and then this gives White huge advantage. So Niels makes 3 slightly inaccurate decisions in a row. Now his knight on b7 is miserable. White owns the entire center. And, yeah, Hare Krishna is going to do what he does best. d5, not the best, but it doesn't really matter because the knight is going to get to the c6 square. And, yeah, I mean, in this game, he played suffocating style. None of Black's pieces could re-enter the game. Like, none of them, really. He just totally dominated the Swede. Knight c4. Niels tried to break out. d6 comes in. All these pawns are collapsing. I think in the Spanish, you almost never end up with a position like this. And this was an Italian, Spanish, whatever. But when you are this dominated positionally, White is going to break through. And Hare Krishna shows exactly why. He has all the experience. Former 27. What is his peak? Like 2770? I mean, he has a ridiculously high peak rating. Maybe like 2750. I don't exactly remember. But he wins in very convincing fashion. He is clearly in great form. Great form. And he wins another matchup. He makes it to the round of 16. Now, I will continue to show you fun matchups. Rapport versus Shankland. Shankland famously has a file on his computer named Random Rapport BS, because Rapport plays all sorts of crazy openings. But today, Rapport was not playing all sorts of crazy openings. He played a relatively normal and positional style Caro-Kann, where he restricts Black's key pawn breaks. Sam Shankland, you know, played as solidly as possible, trying to trade off the pieces on the queen side, getting, you know, typical Caro-Kann play, knight d7. White had a space advantage, but Black is going to rely on both f6 and potentially b6 or b5 pawn breaks. And as you can see, he is preparing them. f6, knight e7. You know, the Caro-Kann is a position that is kind of like a slingshot. And that's what I like a lot. That's what I like about it a lot. You're patient in the Caro-Kann, and at some point the position will break. And Rapport was playing very fast. Like, look at the time. 15 minutes on the clock. Here he has 16 minutes. He's playing every move virtually instantly. Rook c1, bishop e7, rook c2. And at some point, you know, like at some point you're going to make this break, which I already told you about. And Shankland just kind of takes over. Like, Rapport shows him this. And also has pressure here. It's still equal, but we get this, and Shankland breaks through. King f7 was apparently not the best move, but it doesn't really matter. Because here, Rapport plays bishop here, and after knight b6, knight c4 is incoming, knight g3, knight e4 is incoming, and Sam Shankland just gets total positional domination here, as he is not just up a pawn. White doesn't have a move. White doesn't have any move here. Knight f8, knight g6 is incoming, and you just cannot defend your pawns. You cannot defend any of the pawns. It's impossible to guard this pawn, because the only way to guard it would be to put the knight on d3. So, for example, knight c1, knight f8, knight d3, knight g6, White runs out of moves. Every pawn is under target. You don't have a way to protect all the pawns. Bishop f2, bishop d6, at least one of the pawns is going to fall, and then the next pawn will fall. And Shankland knocks out Rapport, so another 2,700 is out of the World Cup. Crazy. And we're going to keep on going. We are going to keep on going. The next matchup is Makhudlu versus Wei Yi. This was in their second game, Wei Yi was... They played classical chess, and Wei Yi was -7 on the evaluation, which is, in an endgame, totally winning. He didn't win. And then they went to blitz with Parham. It was a Nimso Indian. It was a theoretical line. But by move like 25, Parham just had a totally dominant position. Look at this. This is what Parham has. Parham has an extra pawn. He has an extra minute. Totally winning. He goes here. He maintains the advantage for quite some time. Knight b4, knight c6. Like, I don't know how black is going to defend this position. Rook c1. I mean, it's, you know, you got to be a little bit precise here. He goes here. That was not the best move. It allowed a defensive maneuver. He needed instead to play rook c1 and try to take on a7. He obviously cannot take on a7 right away because the rook is hanging. That's why he went here. But this allowed black a little bit of time, and he played the best move again. He regained a little bit of control, but suddenly he lunged in, and this doesn't work because black is defending everything, and somehow, some way, not only did Wei Yi get out of all of the pressure, Wei Yi put so much pressure on Parham in a time trouble. Parham went here, tried to keep attacking, played this move with, you know, 1 second on the clock, and now it's game over. He needed to keep his king protected. He just sort of made a move by hand. He didn't really know what to play. Queen f3, it's over. Black is playing knight e6 or knight e4. Queen g4 is going to hang. Queen g3 is there. The game is over. And just a few moves later, Parham Makhudlu had to resign as he lost his knight and lost the game from a +3 middle game, up 1 minute and 20 seconds and a pawn. And this is brutal. The World Cup is absolutely brutal. It is a ruthless tournament. Yeah, I mean, what more can you say? And so that means Wei Yi is moving on. Now, Peter Leko versus Arjun Erigaisi. Arjun Erigaisi, the highest seed remaining. Everybody else abandoned him. Everybody else is gone. Leko, can he continue the magical run? After 2 games drawn in classical chess, we have the Erigaisi special. A lot of the Indian players play these sidelines now in Spanish and Italian games. And so, I mean, Leko played very confidently. H4, going for the attack. And my guy, Erigaisi, said, let's go. Welcome to the circus of playing Arjun Erigaisi. Arjun Erigaisi's chess is oil wrestling. I found this out because I've been watching this TV show, right? The physical challenges. And there's a Turkish wrestler who wrestles and they literally oil up. Like, unironically, they get oiled up and then they wrestle. And I'm like, that's definitely what, like, playing against Erigaisi is a scrappy battle. He is going to make it complicated. He is going to challenge you. And you'll see here, Peter Leko down on time. 2 minutes versus 7 against Arjun is a dangerous game. And Arjun, when he gets the momentum, he very frequently gives it up. Very frequently. Infrequently, not frequently. Unless he's playing Magnus. Then Magnus can kind of mess with him a little bit. But Arjun totally takes over, neutralizes Peter's attack. Beautiful coordination here on the knight. And the game is over. And the matchup is over. Peter Leko eliminated, unfortunately, after winning back-to-back matchups against Bobby Chang and Kirill Alexeyenko. Arjun Erigaisi moving on to the round of 16. Erigaisi's got to win the World Cup, man. Like, he's got to get at least top 3. All he has to do is to make it into the Final Four. He has to win 2 more matchups. And then, well, I guess he would need to win the, one of the semifinal matchups. Or Erigaisi is the last hope. Man, we can't have a 2,600 rated player in the candidates. Do you know what is going to happen to that poor 2,600 rated player? Do you know what happened to the last person who was 2,600 in the candidates? The candidates is a different level. Brother, this different level. Send them 2-3 years candidates and forget, okay? I mean, 94... Only MMA fans will understand that reference. By the way, let's go to the World Cup winner. Sorry. Oh my gosh, I can't speak. The world champion winner, the one who beat the world champion, Frederick Svane versus Sargsyan, Armenian player. This is another rapid tiebreak, and Frederick getting c5, which is not something you see very often in these types of structures. Builds up pressure on black. Goes for a knight versus bishop position. Now we just have an equal game, but white has a lot of activity. Rook d1, you see Shant kind of going backwards. Frederick improving the position. We know Frederick is going to leave himself no time on the clock whatsoever, but Shant leaves himself even less. Takes. And I got to tell you, folks, this was probably the easiest game of the tournament for Frederick Svane because he did not sweat at all. At all. I am not exaggerating. Complete and total dominance. From this position, where it was equal, to getting here, to being like, hey, so what if I just, like, double my rooks, and then I just, like, advance my pawns on the king side, and then my opponent just, like, weakens his position, and then I just, like, win a pawn, and then I just, like, trade the queens, and then I just, like, trade the rooks, and then I just, like, win literally all his other pawns. Like, why don't I just do that? And that's exactly what he did, and he won, and he's in the round of 16. So Frederick Svane is on fire. He might also make it to the candidates. We have Donchenko, and we have Frederick Svane. to replace Vincent Keymer, who might not make it to the candidates. So another player making it to the candidates. And ladies and gentlemen, for our final act of today, I would like to show you the matchup Sevian versus the living legend, the Italian stallion, Lorenzo Lodici. I don't know where he's from in Italy. I would have said where he's from. Doesn't particularly matter. Here we go. This was their entire playoff match. We begin the rapid, okay? First things first in the rapid, after they drew their first couple of games. In the first game, Sam Sevian sacrificed his rook. He got a completely winning position. He was totally dominating. And then, on the 34th move, he fell off a cliff. And then on the 35th move, he fell even further off that cliff. And Lodici was completely winning. Lodici was down in the trenches here, took a rook, knight e5. He needed to find bishop takes f2 check, which is obviously a completely insane move, because you sort of feel like you're getting obliterated here on the light squares. Instead, he blundered. Sevian dug himself out of the hole, restabilized, and won a bunch of pieces. Bishop d7, and by the miracle of the gods, knight c6 check is coming, and he's going to win the queen. And this is the end of game number 1, as Sam Sevian traps the bishop in the corner, and he's going to promote a queen. So, Sevian took the early lead. Lodici obviously going to go home. Only 2560 feet at rating. Like, Sevian 2700 perennial, lasts like 10 years. Of course, Lodici is busted. There is absolutely no chance for him, right? Wrong. You never give up on the Italian stallion. He puts all his pieces on the queen side. Sevian, for some reason, sacrifices a pawn. No, sorry. The pawn sacrifice is good. But to follow it up, not with e4, but with queen f7 is wrong. It gives Lorenzo enough time to defend himself and get a pass pawn. Queen d7, knight f5. In this game, something really hilarious happened right here. Yes, right here, all white has to do is go g4, h4, g5, g6. That's it. And white wins the game just immediately because black doesn't have a move. Like, straight up does not have a move. Instead of that, Lorenzo touches his knight. So he has to move his knight. And because of that, black wins the pawn, but white is still completely winning. And it takes some 100 bajillion moves, but white wins the game. So he strikes back. So we have more games now, all right? We have more games. In the very next game, Blitz. Lorenzo runs out. Again, they play another Italian. They were playing a lot of these e45s. And already on the move, like move 19, white is just +3. Just totally winning. Totally winning. Over the next few moves, after some exchanges and some scrambling low time, the position is back to equal. It's back to equal, right? Even though Lorenzo is up a pawn. But it's Blitz at the World Cup. The heart rate is racing. The white king just walks up the board. Lorenzo is like, I want to make it into another Gotham recap. Let me literally run my king to the other side of the board. He, again, gets a totally winning position. Then it's a draw. Now it's again, equal. Now it's totally winning for white again. So now, obviously, Lorenzo is just going to promote his pawns. Except he blunders in equal position once again because he hangs this pawn. I have no idea what happened here. Like, absolutely inexplicable that he did not play the move a6. Like, what? I would have played the move a6. I wouldn't have made it this far against Sevian, but I would have played the move a6. He goes here. He hangs his pawn. Total pandemonium. You know, obviously, nerves are sky high. It's equal. Then it's completely winning again for Lodici. All he has to do is push his pawn. Then a few moves later, it's back to equal. Again, queen endgame's the most mysterious in all of chess. A couple moves later, it's completely winning once again if you play the move king b8 because you can't take the pawn because of this. He doesn't see it. Now it's equal again. And one last time, ladies and gentlemen, it's winning again. It's winning. You give a couple checks and you move the king at the right moment. Check here. King a8. He queens. 80 moves later, Lodici leads the match against Sevian. Can you believe it? Now, Sevian has to win on demand. And for a long time in this game, he was not doing that. It was equal, some 30 moves. And then suddenly he started building up a little bit of a lead. Then he gave up the lead, back to equal. But as we know, 8 seconds on the clock, Lodici can smell the round of 16, and it smells like espresso. Queen d1 check. I've really got to stop like making such comments about Italians, but you know, rook c7, king f8, and suddenly, against all odds, in came the attack. It looks like Lorenzo is here Knight f6 wins the game, and there it is. This is a mate in a few moves, and if you take, it's made even faster. G3 check, takes. The white king has to be brave and come right back. And Sevian evens the match. It's 4-4, which means we go to the next round of Blitz playoffs. And this one was not like the others. All the other games were long, slogging games where both guys were like tired, exhausted, nervous. Yeah, here Sevian said, yeah, I'm taking over. It's been fun. Lorenzo blunders a pawn. You cannot take. There's knight f6 all over the place. You're just simply going to be losing. So queen d3 comes in, and within 30 moves, even a little bit shorter, complete domination, up a piece, 4 seconds to 130. One of the worst games of the entire tournament for Lorenzo. It's over. Sevian now leads the match, 5-4. The steam is out of the sails. I mean, it is simply over. And you're going to see it here. Lorenzo's going to try his hardest. He's going to play some random sideline in the Italian. He's looking for something. Oh, my goodness. He's getting desperate. But it's an endgame. I mean, this is excellent play. And actually, a little while later, he's going to get a chance. Sevian blunders right here. You have to find the move c4, which, I mean, okay. I don't, you're trying to go rook e5 and rook f5, I guess. And you don't want him to take, and you don't want him to make a trade. Lorenzo doesn't spot it. And that's going to be his last chance. And now it's just over. He's a pawn down in an endgame. Of course, this is absolutely hopeless position to win. And Sam Sevian will move on to the round of 60. Oh my goodness. Folks, we spoke too soon. Lorenzo Lodici, the man, the myth, the legend, just forced an Armageddon. What is going on? So now the players bid for who gets black. Friendly reminder, in the Armageddon, a draw is a win for black, but black starts with less time. So whoever bids the lowest time starts with black. Sevian starts the game with 2 minutes and 43 seconds against 4 minutes. So it's a 1.5 minute nearly time disadvantage. Lorenzo has to win the game. So again, we go for this position. It worked last time. I mean, worked is a bold statement. And here you can go d4, but remember, white is trying to win g4, so he complicates the position as fast as possible. 1.5 minutes behind for Sevian, who needs to navigate the complexities. d4 is the best move. We have pawn takes, and this position is clean for black. Black just has to not blunder anything here, and he will be okay. He's a pawn up. It looks like Lorenzo is getting somewhere, but in comes the check, and this is the problem. You have a threat of a draw. Sevian can threaten a draw. So the king goes to a2. The rook attacks the queen goes here, and Sevian's just like, yo, I just take, man. I'm 2 pawns up. And at this point, it must have started settling in that Lodici is at the end. Last time I was tricking you, I was keeping it hype, but here, again, the constant threat of the draw is enough for black to just keep making moves. And white needs to continue to try to win the game given the circumstances. Lorenzo ultimately walks into a fork. He was trying to make a move and he walks into a fork. And that is the end of the road for the Italian in the World Cup. What a story. I mean, he's just been featured in more recaps than like anybody in the world of chess. I featured more Lodici games the last week than I featured like games of, everybody not named Magnus, Hikaru, Hans, or Gukesh. Like, seriously, like, it's really incredible stuff. And with that, everything comes to an end. So now, in the next round, in the round 4 schedule games, okay, I guess we don't have a bracket on the chess.com website, but I will cover the next, or maybe we do? Is it at the bottom? No, they have to extend it, and I guess it hasn't been extended yet to the round of 16. Okay, no worries. But it looks like Shant moves on. Like, can we assume that these two play each other, and these two play each other, and these two play... Anyway. Sargsyan knocked out Awonder Liang. I didn't cover all of the results. I think Grebnev, Russian Grandmaster, knocked out MVL. Another 2,700 is gone. And that's all. I didn't cover 2 or 3 matchups. That's all I have for you today. See you all for the round of 16. Get out of here.